8:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in, along with Johnny B, Ken Weaver, Dan Mandis here indeed. Matthew Hurtt is joining us, and he's in studio. Matthew, how are you? I'm
doing great. It's great to be with you, Dan, here in studio in Nashville.
Very good. And you've got your Nashville garb on as well as people can see. Usually you're like all, sort of preppied up, if you will.
Yeah, I'm ready to go and hit Lower Broadway, and spend all the tourist money that you guys love. Tennessee is a no income tax state.
Yes.
And so thank you to the visitors who come to Tennessee and spend all your tax money downtown.
No throwing chairs off of a rooftop bar.
I promise not.
That is generally speaking frowned upon. Also, Leigh Vlasblom is joining us as well, and Director of School Board Leaders Program for the Learn Right Summit and the Learn Right Institute. Is that what it is, Learn Right?
Yes.
Okay,
very good.
Thank you,
Dan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I got to tell you, I'm very excited about the event this weekend. I want to talk some politics, though, first, because it really does sort of parlay into what we're doing this weekend as well with the Learn Right Summit. So let's talk a little politics real quick. There was, and I was playing some audio earlier of MSNBC and some various journalists, and they are actually now talking about, Politico has a story about how the Biden camp are referring to Donald Trump as Hitler pig. Now, I don't know. This is getting, although it doesn't necessarily surprise me, it's a little jarring, is it not?
This is definitely, as we talked about actually earlier this week, Dan, the degradation of our political discourse, where the Democrats say that Republicans say bad things about them and back and forth. But this is really alarming. It's really alarming. And unfortunately for us, what we're seeing and what we will see is if our education system continues to decline, continues to produce poor results in the public education system, we're going to have students who are unprepared to go out and talk politics and to actually engage in what it means to be a civic contributor, to show up, to vote, to exercise your civic responsibility, and to protect this constitutional republic that we have. So absolutely alarming that this is what the Democrats and the Joe Biden camp are calling Donald Trump privately, but it's not a surprise.
And here's the crazy thing is, they're all just goes right into what you were saying. They're the younger staffers, the ones that are, I don't know if they're the social media types, but that's what they're saying, that they are the younger staffers. And so you would think that they would actually know what Hitler was all about. But again, this is something that the Democrats do.
Polls on college campuses consistently show a rejection of the First Amendment and free speech, an increasing number of people who do not believe that someone they disagree with should be allowed to speak on a college campus. And also, polls show that more and more young people don't know about Hitler and the Holocaust and all of these tragedies, the Communist Party of China killing 50 million people in the 20th century and what happened in the Soviet Union. So the young people don't know about these items, and we need to be sure that we're engaging and talking about them. And that's why we're here, I think, this weekend in Nashville.
Yeah, talking about the Learn Right Summit. So Leigh Vlasblom, again, Director of School Board Leaders Program. We've been talking about this a lot here on WTN, and part of what we've been talking about is the need for, number one, obviously parents to step up, which amongst conservative circles they generally do. But part of what is going on at the Learn Right Summit this weekend is you are giving parents and others the tools to raise the next generation of conservatives.
Correct. And what we're seeing is that all of this bad behavior is spilling into the school. It's spilling into the classroom, and you have school board members who are elected and they have some serious decisions to make, have to write policies, and they don't have the tools to do it. And the community doesn't have the tools to properly support them. So this weekend, we're going to be filling their toolbox. We have a lot of amazing trainings going on, not just speaking about things. I think the community knows there's a lot of think tanks out there that talk a lot about, different issues, but we like to refer to ourselves as a do tank. We want to give you tools and strategies so that you can get in the community and fix what's going on and have the right support.
Let me ask you this, because you're right about the school boards. Mm-hmm. And I think that part of what's going on in our country today is that we do have the leftist school boards, and that goes all the way to the classroom. Unfortunately, there's some people, like, for example, listening right now, that live in Nashville, and their kids are forced to go to, right now, Nashville schools. By and large, there's some scholarship programs out there. But the question is, if you're a parent and you are trying to figure out how to combat all of this liberalism, the progressivism that is out there, how do they combat that?
Well, and that's really the problem. I mean, I think what you see is the community is really forgetting what a school board is meant to be, and that's really to be the community and the parents' voice. And you have these leftist school boards because currently in Tennessee, for example, you've got the school board associations that 3 years ago were calling parents domestic terrorists.
Yep.
They are the only organizations that are allowed to train school boards. And so new school board members don't have choices, for example. So their idea of what governing looks like is given through the lens of the left. And so Leadership Institute is really trying to offer possibilities for other options of training. And that's really what we need. We have to have parents who have a voice and they have a seat at the table. And we have to have school board members that understand what their job is. And they're not supposed to be another arm of the union or another arm of these associations. So it's a problem.
Joining us, Matthew Hurtt and Leigh Vlasblom, the director of the School Board Leaders Program. Yes, I did admonish her off the air for that really long name. Clearly, she's unaware of my reputation for shanking things, but thank you for joining us here on Nashville's Morning News, talking about the Learn Right Summit that is going to be going on this weekend. I want to get into the speakers, too. Riley Gaines and also Mark Green, who folks heard on this show yesterday. Both are going to be speaking at the Learn Right Summit. Leigh, let me ask you, we have always on talk radio, but especially in the last several years, spoken about the school boards and how left-leaning they are. Is it a problem only in the big cities, or is it also an issue in, the suburbs?
Well, I think it started out as a problem in the big cities. You've got your, left-controlled areas, but it's moving out into the suburbs, unfortunately. I think you have a lot of people who just are uninformed and busy raising their kids and working, and you can't sleep on the job. They get in there, they take over, and they just wreak havoc.
Is it that not enough conservative parents want to be school board members, and the left, I've always said the left is driven by emotion and hate.
Oh, absolutely.
So they are more motivated than conservatives. Conservatives, the joke goes, but I think there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
The conservatives are out there working and raising their kids inside their home, and they don't always have the chance or the opportunity to join a school board,
absolutely,
for example. So let's talk about the speakers at the Learn Right Summit. It's going to be this weekend. Very exciting. Talk about Riley Gaines and Mark Green.
Well, Riley Gaines, of course, is always a big hit. She's going to be there speaking on, different issues that we see playing out all over the country. And Chairman Green is going to be speaking about the border crisis. I know that you think that you're isolated, but it is impacting our local schools, and it's impacting them really in a financial way, because we have a lot of unfunded mandates that the government imposes on schools. And so he's going to speak to that. We also have some amazing, we have Alice Stewart. She's a board member at JFK Institute of Politics at Harvard and CNN. She's going to be speaking about media messaging and really some good stuff. We've got the Oklahoma State Superintendent. He's really on fire. He's got some great ideas. He's going to be speaking as well. So, and your own Representative White is going to be coming with Aaliyah Guthrie from SCORE. Okay. They're going to talk about the Tennessee story and the impact that all the policies that they've really been pushing here in Tennessee are really helping the literacy rate, because we are in a literacy emergency. And so
part of the reason why we're in a literacy emergency is, number one, because we are losing teachers, whether it's in Tennessee or across the country. And there is a lot of, I would say, BS, DEI and all that kind of stuff that is being taught in the schools as well. And so they're putting all of this agenda out there, and they're not focusing on the stuff that really matters.
Right.
Reading,
It's a
writing,
distraction.
arithmetic.
I mean, it's the left's march to dumb down education. And it's impacting our children. And you have, students now that can't read at a third grade level. And
it's horrendous.
Horrendous.
You see the scores in Tennessee or anywhere.
Well, Tennessee is doing a really good job.
Tennessee is doing
compared
better
to some of the other ones. They've got work to do. One of the gentlemen that's going to be joining us is the Florida Superintendent of the Year. He took his district from 36 up to top 2 in literacy rates. So we are not just going.
What is the difference? Do we know the difference between, so what is Florida doing?
Right.
And what are we doing or Arizona doing? Some of these other school districts and some of these other states that have great scores. I mean, I know that we've got different governors, but I mean, Ron DeSantis in Florida is clearly governed by Republicans, which is, our
he
state is too.
He just passed some great legislation.
Yeah. So I guess ultimately, the question is, what is Florida doing that we're not?
Well, I don't know that it's what is Florida doing that we're not. I think it becomes the style in which you do things. I think that's where you see the difference. And also, you really have to have support. You can get elected and you can try to govern and do policies that are good for communities and for children. But ultimately, the left's ability to paint a different picture really drives people from wanting to be a part, especially as school boards. I mean, these are parents in your community. And what you see them doing on a national level, they're doing on a local level too to these elected officials. And so there's not an advantage to put yourself out there. And we've really got to empower the community to support them and to shut the left's narrative down and tell the truth. And that's really hard.
I think one of the big problems that parents have today is combating not only the agenda, the leftist bent in schools, but also everything that's on social media. You look at, it seems like these days it's cool to be liberal. It's cool to be progressive. For the life of me, I don't know why, but says the old conservative guy. Yeah. But that's also a big part of the challenge that we're seeing with today's youth.
Well, we're seeing it in the classroom. It's not cool to be conservative, but it's also probably not good for your grades as well. Yeah. I mean, you see time and time again when I was on the school board, I'd have parents reaching out to me about a paper that their child had to write, and they were afraid to be truthful in it because of getting retaliation based on your ideology. So we see it playing out everywhere. So really it comes down though to the school boards, because like you said, how does Florida govern different than Tennessee? People don't understand each school district governs differently. Mm-hmm. So you forget how much control they have over curriculum, over policies. So you can have a neighboring district nailing it, doing a great job, and then their neighbor absolutely falling.
Yep. And that's, I remember when my kids were young, always trying to find the good school district. And I know that it's getting harder and harder to find those good school districts. And so part of what conservatives want to do is embrace homeschooling and all those other things. And I fully embrace that. The problem, though, is that we do need to, if we really want to affect change and impact change, we need to do whatever we can to try to change the schools and get involved in the school board and all that other kind of stuff. So the question is, ultimately, if there were 3 things that you could tell, and Matthew, you can jump in here as well if you want, but 3 things that you could tell people right now why they should go to the Learn Right Summit this weekend.
Well, you go start us off.
I think that the ability to network with other people, in the last question, Dan, it's what is Florida doing differently than Tennessee?
Absolutely.
The opportunity to network with others who are engaged in this space, to meet thought leaders and people who are making it happen across the country and in public policy is absolutely awesome. The encouragement that it takes. A lot of families and parents think they're the only one. I'm the only conservative in my neighborhood. And to go out and see others who are engaged in these public policy objectives is critical. And then just to have fun. You're going to learn something. You're going to be there, and I'll be there. And it's a great opportunity. My first ever Leadership Institute training, I was a student at Middle Tennessee State University. I took a training in April of 2007 that changed my life. It's why I'm sitting at this desk today talking to you, Dan. And the training opportunities that you'll have at this summit and at all of our many, many events that we have across the country are life-changing, and you're saving the country at the same time.
Listen, if you are the only conservative in your neighborhood, you got to move.
Yeah.
Well, I am in my building in Arlington.
And another thing is, a lot of times conservatives get into a silo. We've got to collaborate. We've got to be a force multiplier. And being in these environments like the Learn Right Summit, you're going to hear what they're doing in Florida, Tennessee. We've got the Indiana story, all kinds of good takeaways.
All right, running late, so real quick, give me the specs. How can people get tickets, and what's that discount code?
Yes, so learnright.org, and we've got a discount code 100% off for the next 25 people today, and that is all caps TNRES, TNRES 100. Go to learnright.org and just at checkout, put in promo code TNRES 100.
All right. Sounds like you're doing great work, and good luck on the event. I think that it's going to be a smashing success, and you're doing great things.
Thank you.
So good luck. It is 8:24, Super Talk 99.7.